Hello, myself Dr. Mayur Hazarika, CSE 2022 rank 5. In this video, I will be discussing the strategies for value addition that I used in my mains answers. And throughout the video, I'll try to demonstrate how I used my own resources for value addition. So what is value addition in answers? It means that you write or mention something which will give value to your answer, and that will in turn increase the chances of a higher score for the answer. Now one must note that on most of the occasions these value addition points will be over and above the basic aspects of an answer. So I'm saying that this will be on most of the occasions. On some occasions the value addition portions might be actually very integral points of the answers. So what are the basic aspects of an answer which are not covered within value addition? These are like answering the basic demand of the question, answering in multidimensionality, proper intro and body. So now I'll try to show or demonstrate what I mean by value addition with an example. For example, this was a question in this year mains examination GS3 paper, and this portion I'll just be dealing with this portion that mention its effects on global climate, discuss global warming and mention its effects on global climate. So although it says that just mention, so one might just go for mentioning some effects. This is not an exhaustive list, there are so many others and therefore I put this etc. But these are the points that one can mention, like Earth surface temperature and all those things. But what I did, I went above and beyond just mentioning these points, and I went for data to substantiate everything that I was saying. For example, if I'm saying that our surface temperature is increasing, then I give the data. If I'm saying that the sea level rise is increasing, then I gave the data in this manner. So I'll just show that I had actually collected this data before my exams itself. This type of data for environment, and these are the same data that I have quoted in the exam. So if you want, you can just pause and look at the data if you want. And moving ahead in the video, I'll be discussing such 8 ways of value addition. So moving forward to the first technique of value addition in the answers, and probably my own personal favorite is statistics and data. There are 2 ways you can quote data. One will be a direct data and the other will be a comparative data. In direct data, you just give a data, while in comparative data, you actually give a comparison between 2 areas or 2 regions. Direct data, this might be an example of a direct data, while for comparative data, we can go for comparison between space, across a space or across time. So for example of spatial comparative data would be, for example, logistics cost of India versus developed states, and secondly it might be MMR across different states of India. So the advantage of this comparison across the space is that it gives the examiner an idea that you know not only about the situation of a particular region, but you actually have an idea about where that particular region stands as compared to its other counterparts. While in case of temporal comparative data, 2 examples might be, for example, life expectancy at birth, and the other might be in 1950 compared to 2019, while the other might be internet access in 2016 versus 2020. Well, you can see that this was a question in this year's exam. The increase in life expectancy in the country has led to newer health challenges in the community. So if somebody knew this data, then it could have been a very good introductory, it could have been very well used in the introduction portion of the answer. On the other hand, you see another very big advantage of temporal comparative data is that it often helps us to write the answer in an optimistic note. You see on most of the parameter or criteria, the statistics will indicate that we are moving towards a more positive direction, and so having this temporal idea helps us to put or answer the question in a more positive note. Another form of comparative data which has a kind of limited use is across gender. For example, comparing between male and female literacy rate or labor force participation rate. So this is one way of doing value addition to your answers. If you have such data, then you can definitely quote them in order to give some extra spice to your answers. The second method of doing value addition would be to quote reports, and this is almost similar as statistics and data, but you can definitely use those reports. For example, you can use the report from the economic survey or other reports such as released by RBI or SEBI. for example. And then there are some other reports as well. For example, according to the VNR of SDZ, India uplifted 271 million people out of multidimensional poverty. So this type of reports can definitely be quoted in the exams to do some value addition. Besides this, you see there are a lot of reports with respect to environment portion of GS3. All those reports, for example, emissions gap report, adaptation gap report, can definitely be quoted in the exams. The third method of valuation can be through case laws or judgments. I would personally recommend that the candidates should be ready with around 35 or 50 of those case laws so that they can be quoted as and when required in the exams. As for example, this time there was this question that the most in GS2, the first question, the most significant achievement of modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problems by the Supreme Court. Discuss this statement with the help of relevant case laws. So this is a very specific question asking about environmental problems, and they have also narrowed it down to just Supreme Court and Supreme Court alone. So you cannot be quoting judgments from high courts, and they have asked for relevant case laws. So I was lucky enough that I had actually prepared this one particular case law that I can actually show is this one, the Arjun Gopal case, and it was Arjun Gopal versus Union of India case. This has been quoted from Indian Kanun, just to show that this is actually a case from the Supreme Court of India. And if you look at it, it was through this judgment that Supreme Court had put some sort of ban on fireworks in Delhi region with some exceptions. So I used this example. You can see that I had even put this double star mark over here even before the exam, and I was fortunate enough that the question actually came on this directly, and I was able to quote it. So this is another way of very good value addition, in particular to GS2. So the fourth way of value addition can be through government schemes. You can quote them in GS2, in GS1 society portion, and in GS3 for economy as well as environment portions. For example, if you want, you can just pause this and look at the various schemes that I had prepared. These are only a few of those. For example, schemes to promote manufacturing and export, schemes for skill development, initiatives for employment, and all these schemes that I had prepared. There are so many other topics that I had prepared for schemes. Another method of value addition can be through anecdotes, examples, quotes, and parts from world history as well as from Indian history. So these are mostly useful in essays as well as in the ethics papers, where you can easily mention all these for value addition. And this is mostly self-explanatory. There is no need to explain this. But if you just want, you can just these are three of those anecdotes that I have actually shown here. If you want, you can pause and have a look at this. This anecdote was of Vikram Sarabhai reading Bhagavad Gita, and this can be used as an example for religion and science type of essays. This is another example of failures, patience, and perseverance through Lincoln's failures. This is an anecdote on Anandibai Gopal Rao Joshi. She was the first Indian female physician trained in Western medicine. So this can be used as an example for women empowerment, for courage, perseverance, mother's role, etc. The sixth method of value addition can be through flowcharts, and I believe for me personally, flowcharts are very easy if the question relates to some mechanism, some process, or if there is some categorization or subdivision of some topics. As for example, in this, these are two questions that came this year in the UPSC CSE mains. Here it was asked about how do vaccines work. So this is basically referring to the mechanism of vaccines, and I used a flow chart to show this, and at the same time explain the mechanism of cloudburst in the context of Indian subcontinent. So you can very easily show that this process leads to X, process leads to Y leads to Z, and in this mechanism you can give a very good flow chart. Similarly, the seventh method of value addition can be through current affairs based news, anecdotes, or stories. This is pretty much self-explanatory. You can use this as an introduction, or you can even quote that in essays, in ethics, and as well as in the body portion of various other GS related answers. The eighth and the final method of value addition that I was using was through maps and diagrams. For example, this is very useful in a lot of situations, in particular GS1 geography portion. As for example, you can see these are 4 questions which came in GS1 this year, and every one of these questions had a potential of a diagram or a map. For example, this was a question on ocean currents, rubber producing countries, straits and isthmus, and then there was troposphere. Each of these questions had a potential of using a map or diagram in some occasion or other. So these are some questions where it becomes very evident that you can use diagrams or maps, or but there are certain areas where you can use diagrams or maps, which can be considered as non-conventional. For example, this is a map which can be used with respect to Bhakti movement. You don't normally think about maps when it comes to Bhakti movement, but you can actually use this map showing various reformers associated with Bhakti movement in different regions of India. So this is a very good value addition that you can probably use if there is a question on the Bhakti movement. At the same time, there was this question in this year, which was asking about what are the available coastal management techniques for combating the hazard. For besides mentioning the various conventional methods, I actually knew that there was this process called growing, and I drew this diagram. This diagram I actually drew in the exam, and it helped me in putting some value to what I was trying to say in that answer. In summary of whatever I have said, these are the 8 methods of value addition that I was using. Here I am showing the various usage areas of each of these technique. For example, statistics and data can be used in these areas. Reports similar to the areas as statistics and data. Case laws and judgments can be used in GS2. Government schemes in GS2, GS3, GS1 society. Anecdotes examples can be used extensively in essays and ethics. While the last 3, that is flowcharts, current affairs references, maps and drawings, can be used mostly in generic manner, and that is they can be used almost everywhere. One particular thing that I would like to add in the end is that you should definitely try to write some specific things associated with the question besides the generic things that you are actually mentioning. That is, I'm mentioning the specific things besides the common things that almost everyone attempting the questions might be coming up with. For example, in GS2, the question that was with Supreme Court judgments on environmental protection, etc., I had mentioned this Arjun Gopal case, which is a very specific example. You could have gone for things like Supreme Court has done this A, B, C, D generic points, but one such specific example actually gives a significant amount of value addition to your answer. Another example that I would like to quote is that this year there was this question in GS3. Each year a large amount of plant material, cellulose, is deposited on the surface of planet Earth. What are the natural processes this cellulose undergoes before yielding carbon dioxide, water and other end products? So a lot of people went for words like bacterial decomposition or other decomposition process, etc. Even I had written these phrases, but one particular thing or specific thing that I had mentioned was that this decomposition is carried out through cellulase enzyme. This is the enzyme that is responsible for decomposition of cellulose, and I actually knew this from my medical background knowledge. But anyway, whatever this thing that I had mentioned, I ensured that the examiner's eyes actually goes to this particular area through underlining or through box making around this particular thing that I had mentioned. So in summary, besides the value addition, you should always write specific, try to write at least specific things associated with that thing. And lastly, thank you for watching the video, and you might actually drop your doubts in the comment section or ask me to make a video on particular thing or particular area that you have doubts, and I might make a video in it. Thank you.